Daniel Carter stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, the city shimmering below like a sea of opportunity he no longer wanted to swim in. His name echoed in boardrooms and headlines: billionaire steel magnate, innovator, empire builder. But none of it touched him anymore. The lavish parties, the polite nods, the laughter that never reached the eyes, it all felt like a performance. Surrounded by luxury, Daniel felt utterly alone. Every conversation was calculated, every compliment transactional. He had built an empire, but lost the warmth of connection along the way. One evening, after declining yet another invitation to a high-society gala, Daniel opened an old drawer and pulled out a photo of his father, calloused hands, dirt under his nails, a smile carved from honest work. That was the last time Daniel had seen real joy, in the sweat, not the spotlight. He made a decision. By the end of the week, Daniel vanished. No press release. No grand announcement. Just a note to his assistant and a one-way bus ticket to the city's industrial edge. Dressed in worn-out jeans, a flannel shirt and steel-toe boots, he became Danny, a quiet laborer with no past, hired on a construction crew rebuilding an old train station. Each morning he joined the workers, blending into the noise of drills and hammering steel. His hands, once soft with privilege, began to harden. But for the first time in years, so did his sense of purpose. He was starting over, not as a billionaire, but as a man in search of something real. The first time Danny saw her, she was crouched behind a tiny rice stall tucked between two cracked buildings near the construction site. Morning sun warmed the air, and the smell of steamed rice mingled with city dust. Her hands moved quickly, measuring, scooping, serving, yet her eyes noticed everything. When a barefoot child lingered by her table, she handed him a small packet of rice without asking for a coin. Her name was Aisha. She wore a faded scarf and spoke with a calmness that cut through the city's chaos. Danny started stopping by each morning, not just for the food but for the warmth in her smile, the kind that didn't ask who you were or what you had. She treated the laborers the same as she treated the delivery boys or tired mothers. If someone couldn't pay, she still fed them. Over time, he began noticing the quiet sacrifices. She once gave her lunch to an elderly woman who fainted from hunger. Another day, she gave her only umbrella to a stranger caught in the rain, then stood in the downpour herself, laughing like it was nothing. Danny would sit nearby after work, pretending to rest, just to watch how she turned simple kindness into a way of life. She reminded him of something he'd forgotten, how dignity could exist even in poverty, and how wealth wasn't measured in money, but in how you treated others. In Aisha, he saw not just resilience, but a kind of richness no amount of money could ever buy. The rain fell hard one evening, drumming against tin roofs and turning the streets into rivers of mud. The construction crew had packed up early, but Danny lingered under the skeletal frame of a half-built wall, soaked to the skin. He had no real home to return to, just a rented room with peeling paint and silence. As he pulled his thin jacket tighter, a familiar voice called out through the rain. "Danny?" He turned to see Aisha standing a few feet away, umbrella in one hand, a bag of rice in the other. Her scarf was soaked, her shoes caked with mud. "You'll catch your death out here. Come." Without waiting for an answer, she led him to her tiny home above the rice stall, a single room with a flickering bulb, 2 mats, and the smell of garlic and turmeric in the air. She scooped rice into 2 bowls and placed one in front of him like it was the most natural thing in the world. They ate in quiet at first. Then they talked, about childhood, about lost dreams, about family. Danny listened as she spoke of her younger brother, a brilliant boy she couldn't afford to send to school. She smiled as she talked, but her eyes told a different story, of burdens carried alone. Danny felt something shift inside him. In that small room with cracked walls and flickering light, he felt more seen, more human, than he ever had in any penthouse suite. And for the first time, he didn't feel like pretending anymore. Danny had finally made up his mind. The lie had gone on too long, and Aisha deserved the truth. He wasn't just a broke construction worker. He was Daniel Carter, billionaire, owner of one of the largest steel companies in the country. But before he could find the right words, fate beat him to it. That morning, as Aisha arranged bags of rice on her stall, a customer shoved a newspaper into her hands. Her eyes scanned the headline, "Billionaire Daniel Carter funds $10 million school project in the slums." Below the headline was a photo, Danny. No construction dust, no tattered clothes. Just a sharp suit, a clean shave, and that unmistakable face. When he arrived moments later, Aisha didn't smile. The paper was folded on the table like a silent accusation. "You lied," she said softly, without anger, just disappointment. "All this time, you were pretending to be one of us." "Why?" Danny fumbled for words. "I needed to remember what life felt like, what people were like, when they didn't want anything from me." Her voice broke. "I never wanted your money, Danny. I just wanted the truth." He stepped forward, eyes pleading. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I only stayed because, you were the first real thing I'd found in years." But Aisha looked away, her heart bruised by the betrayal. "You didn't have to be poor for me to care about you. You just had to be honest." And just like that, she turned back to her stall, leaving Danny standing in the rain, this time, truly alone. Weeks passed. The city moved on, but Danny couldn't. The construction site no longer echoed with purpose, and the penthouse he returned to felt colder than ever. Aisha's words haunted him, not her anger, but her disappointment. He had all the money in the world, but he had lost the one person who saw him without it. Then one day, Aisha received a package. No name. Just a simple brown envelope left at her stall. Inside were a few papers, and a letter in Danny's handwriting. "Aisha. I came to your world thinking I needed to escape mine. But I was wrong. I didn't need to hide, I needed to learn. You showed me what true wealth looks like. Not in numbers, but in heart. Not in giving because you can, but because you choose to. Enclosed are the land deeds for the small field behind your stall and the license for a rice mill in your name. You once told me your dream was to feed more people and send your brother to school. Now you can. I'm not asking for anything in return, just a chance to do something right. If you ever forgive me, I'll be here. Not as Daniel Carter the billionaire, not as Danny the worker, but as a man who finally understands what it means to truly give." That evening, as the sun dipped low, Aisha reopened her stall, this time, beside a brand new learning center already under construction. Danny stood beside her, sleeves rolled, hands helping. Their story hadn't ended. It had just begun, built not on riches, but on truth, purpose, and love.